Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll reconvene. We're going to go to our last application, item 5 on the agenda, which is planning application 23/00353/FULL. And I'm going to hand over to Ms. Clark to present.
Thank you, Chair. FaceMed is an established use which offers health services within a 15-mile radius of Craig's Hill, serving both NHS and private patients. Since the application was deferred, revised plans have been received which overcome officers' concerns regarding the scale of the proposed extension and impact to neighbouring properties. With the site location plan, the application site is outlined in red, and as Craig's Hills Post Office is almost opposite the application site, it's also within a mature residential area. Parking to serve the existing use is to the side of the existing building. Oak Avenue is towards the bottom of the slide, which there are mature residential properties as well. You'll see within the application site there are existing outbuildings within the rear. This area of the site was formerly garden land serving a property known as Glenhaven at Oak Avenue. The applicant purchased this property and acquired the land, and in 2022 an application to change the use of the existing buildings to the use class E for the storage of medical supplies was granted, and this is the location of the proposed extension. In terms of the proposed site plan, this shows the proposed site layout and neighbouring properties at Springfields, which is to the top of the slide, and properties at Oak Avenue towards the bottom, which includes the Glenhaven property I referred to just a few seconds ago. Existing planting is located along all the site boundaries. Some of the existing buildings within the application site will be removed, and these are shown with red dotted lines. An existing access to the land will also be closed, with the existing parking spaces realigned, which are annotated within the blue lines on the plan. The proposed single-storey extension will be sited approximately 3.3 metres from the side boundary with Springfields and 3.4 and 3.6 metres from the boundary with the Firs and Willowmead. The extension will also be approximately 20 metres from the rear elevation of the two properties at Oak Avenue. This aerial photograph just shows the application site area and the proximity of residential properties around it, and also car parking serving the existing use. The building to the south of the application site, which is tiled in red roof, will be removed from the site to make way for the proposed extension. We have the existing elevations, both existing in the rear and also existing side, and proposed elevations here. To the top side elevation face towards the car park and boundaries of the properties of Oak Avenue. The height at its highest point is approximately 3.5 metres and at its lowest is 3.2 metres. The red dotted line shows the garage building which will be removed from the site. The proposed site elevation is at the bottom, which will face towards Springfields. No new windows are proposed to the side elevation of the extension. The proposed materials will be of timber cladding and brickwork. The extension has been reduced from the previous plans and is now of a more linear form than the previously staggered design of the extension. This is the proposed rear elevation, which shows the proposed extension. The extension will be set in from the sides of the existing building, and in terms of the design, the extension will have a flat roof. So this existing floor plan, the main entrance to the existing building, it's on the left-hand side, and the proposed plan shows the extension. And in terms of its length of the property, it's approximately 19.5 metres and it's set in, and also the extension will have a depth of 8.5 metres. Some site photographs for you to see. So the existing, on the left-hand side is the existing rear of the face med, and on the right you have the existing garage, which is to be removed from the site to make way for the proposed extension. On the left you've got existing car parking, and the wall to the back of the site will be moved back about 2.2 metres. And the one on the right-hand side is from within the application site, looking down the existing access, which will be closed. And these couple of photographs to show the property at Springfields and also the existing air conditioning units, which is a plant room, which will be retained. And on the right is one of the outbuildings, which will be demolished as part of the scheme. So in conclusion, it is considered that the proposed single-storey rear extension has been designed to appear in keeping with the existing scale and form of the host building, and the proposed materials are considered to be sympathetic to the surroundings. Whilst all of the neighbour comments and the parish council comments have been fully considered, the extension is not considered to have an adverse impact to residential amenities in terms of loss of light or overbearing issues or noise and disturbance. Your Environmental Health Officer has raised no objections, and Essex Highways had no objections regarding parking and highway safety issues. With regards to comments regarding the loss of trees, existing trees are to the side and rear boundaries of the application site and will not be adversely affected. Your officers have recommended conditions regarding landscaping and protection of trees, and the area of the land to the rear of the proposed garage will remain open. The rear of the proposed extension will remain open in character. Therefore, it's recommended for approval, subject to conditions under Section 8, page 152 of the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms Clark. Do we have anyone asking questions? Yes, Councillor Rimmer first.
Yes, a quick one, but it may be a long answer. I was wondering, in the past, when we've had borough councillors or ward councillors actually write and object, we've had either the paper on it showing the full statement or it's read out. I don't know if that could be read out, please.
Sorry, through you, Judge, I'm just looking through my report, if that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it looks to me, Councillor Rimmer, as if Councillor Sargent had actually put in a request for this to come to the committee and may not have actually put a report in about that, but we'll let the officers continue to see if they can find the answer to that for you. In the meantime, can I just have any indications of anyone else will be wanting to ask questions? No? Councillor Myers, okay. Right.
Thank you, Councillor Morris. Yeah, so the call-in request from Councillor Sargent identified concerns in respect of impact on neighbouring properties, impact on character of the street scene, residential amenity, impact on trees and landscaping, and under other reasons identified overdevelopment, retention of outbuildings and design encroachment.
Which is what it actually says in the report. So was there anything else?
Sorry, no, there wasn't.
Okay, Councillor Rimmer, you wish to come back?
Maybe there's been some confusion, but I understood there was going to be a follow-up written statement as well. But if that hasn't been received,
okay, Councillor Myers.
Yeah, thank you. Are there any proposals for this site to be more environmentally friendly, sustainable in terms of a flat roof with PV panels?
Through you, Chair, the plans do not indicate that. whether or not there's something that we could put as a condition, sustainability, construction methods, if that's something.
Okay, the applicant is actually, or sorry, the agent is actually attending this meeting remotely, so perhaps he'll be able to say something on that score. Councillor Myers, did you wish to come back?
No, I'll just wait to hear what the applicant has to say. Thank you.
Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? Nope, that being the case, I'll take us out of session then, and we'll try and connect with Andy Wells, who is the agent for this application, who is joining us remotely. Can you hear me, Mr. Wells?
Hello, yes I can, yeah.
Right, you have 3 minutes from now. Thank you.
Thank you. The purpose-built centre has been serving the community for nearly 7 years, provides much needed continuous healthcare for more than 4,000 patients on the NHS, privately insured and self-funded. It's situated in the centre of Crays Hill, opposite the post office and local convenience store, with garden centres and commercial units nearby. Many of the existing buildings and locality have been extended, in some cases by very large extensions and close to the site boundary, all on the Crays Hill stretch of the A129. To maintain stringent infection prevention and control procedures in line with healthcare government guidelines, the centre requires space to hold a stock of medicines, instruments and surgical equipment. It is essential that such equipment is kept sterile. As a result, suitable storage space with clean and easy access to the clinical areas is required to maintain the healthcare services provided. The extension enables the centre to comply with this requirement. The proposed single-storey extension has been carefully designed and is appropriate to the site and the character of the area. The site is fully enclosed and lower in height than the nearest house adjacent. The accuracy of the scheme is verified by a detailed topographic survey and tree survey, which are included with the application. The case officer has visited the site when the medical centre was open, and her report states that the proposal is appropriate and there would be no material impact upon residential amenity. We've also considered and applied to the scheme all feedback received from the officer. Thus, the design, the materials, shape, size and position of the extension in relation to the main building and neighbouring properties fully complies with local and national planning policies. Indeed, these policies actually support the proposal. The part of the site proposed for the extension is fully enclosed and very little is visible from the public realm. Computer-generated images have been prepared which show the proposal would have virtually no impact on the street scene. The separation distance from the extension to the boundary with the nearest neighbouring property, combined with the lower level of the site and the retention of all living trees on the site, protects the residential amenity of all adjacent properties. The extension will not impact outlook or noise, would reduce the potential for disturbance by enclosing storage space and providing a physical barrier between the car park and nearby residential properties. There's no loss of parking, and the removal of the separate access from Oak Avenue will improve both pedestrian and highway safety. As presented in the officer's detailed report, all the above and more have led to a scheme that complies with all relevant planning policies. It's appropriate and sympathetic to the area. The application fully respects neighbour amenity and the character of the area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would you like to turn your camera and microphone off now so that we can continue with the meeting? Okay, I am now going to call John Edgecombe, if you'd like to come to the microphone. Right, make yourself comfortable, Mr. Edgecombe. When you're comfortable, if you turn your microphone on, and you will have 3 minutes to speak, which will be timed. Carry on. Will be timed by the traffic light system on the desk in front of me here. And as I say, when you turn your microphone on, the timing will start, and you will have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I trust that the committee members have seen my 6-page letter of the 12th of April 2003, which fully sets out my objections to this proposal. My property, Springfields, is situated next to the proposal site, immediately to the east, and I've been resident there for the past 45 years. Throughout my time in residence, the proposal site has been either an orchard or a residential garden space. In their original application, the applicant misrepresented the nature of the proposal site by stating there were no trees on the site or in the surrounding properties. In fact, there are several established trees on the eastern edge of the site and many others on the surrounding properties. These provide biodiverse habitat for many birds and other wildlife. It is certainly not the barren site the applicant sought to portray. However, they have since updated the plans to include a tree report which positions 2 non-existent trees on my patio area. Such positioning would be precluded because of proximity to my house and consequent risk of root damage to the foundations. Is the applicant perhaps trying to falsely suggest there is some natural screening already existing? The applicant has misrepresented the height relationship between the proposed new structure and Springfields, i.e. 2.85 metres instead of 3.85. This is fully explained in my aforementioned letter, including a photograph that demonstrates the height impact at the point where the structure would be barely 1 metre from the boundary fence. This constitutes a significant and adverse impact within the meaning of the National Planning Policy Framework. The mass, scale and overbearing effect of a stark and continuous brick timber-clad elevation along the greater part of my own garden west boundary would result in a significant and demonstrable impact upon the enjoyment of my property and its garden environs. The proposal is an overdevelopment on a massive scale. I calculate it represents an increase of 81.5% on the existing building footprint and would result in a significant and adverse impact upon the amenity of adjoining properties and must therefore fail to meet relevant planning possibilities. The applicant is a private cosmetic and dental centre that provides services to those that can afford their significant prices. It is clearly a commercial for-profit operation seeking to extend their commercial activities into this residential village setting. It should in no way be considered as the applicant is forced to plead an exceptional circumstance case, nor that any presumption in favour should apply. The extent of the proposed plant room space cannot be justified in relation to the extent and purpose of the extension proposed unless required for a further phased extension. The enlargement of the plant room and its encroachment right up to my boundary line and resultant noise nuisance from the vastly increased plant installation both offer sufficient grounds for refusal of this present application. Some large trees would have to be removed to facilitate the proposed construction, and the applicant has made no reference to this or the effect on the root structure that lowering the site by half a metre would have, nor mention of temporary or permanent upholding of my own property boundary.
Can you wind up, please?
You've got one paragraph. I trust the committee will recognise the application is widely flawed and as a whole inappropriate proposal for this very compliant site, which would result in significant and considerable harm to my own and other adjoining residential properties. The committee will see fit to recommend its refusal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could you turn the microphone off, please?
Oh, turn it off, sorry.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, I also have Councillor David McPherson Davis to speak. Okay, Councillor, I'm sure you understand how the microphone works, and we'll give you 3 minutes or so from the moment that you press the button to start. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm appearing here as a resident rather than a councillor. First of all, it's nice to be here and see you all again. Firstly, could we have the plan up again, please? Because I'd like to make reference to it. Keep that there, please. Right. First of all, a comment regarding reference 211 in the officer's report. She mentions refer to the front adjacent to Crays Hill Road. Well, I'm sorry, but that isn't Crays Hill Road. Crays Hill Road is another 100 yards further up the main road. If you look at the, and I think it's in the report that the owners of the medical centre also own the property known as Glenhaven. So that means effectively that they have the land at the back, the car park and the bungalow. And if you can't tell me that that's putting pressure on the people that live in those first two bungalows in Oak Avenue, then I'm sorry, you haven't got it right. The removal of the wall that runs currently along the back of the car parking area will effectively mean that there are two levels. The driveway that is there at the moment, as it gets down towards Oak Avenue, is considerably higher than the car parking area. If there's going to be no more customers, in theory, coming to this activity, then why the need to expand to this size? Are you aware, councillors, that there is a further application for this site that has already been submitted to the planning department? I'm aware of that because I've been consulted on it as a parish councillor. That might well have no bearing on your decision tonight, but I've just asked the question, why has the applicant put another application in? Commercially, the statement by the professional that this is in the middle of a commercial area. There is one village shop 100 yards away from the property.
Could you wind up, please?
There are no other commercial properties within 200 yards of this development. Thank you. My final comment is, I think this is overdevelopment and you should refuse it.
Thank you, Mr. Macpherson Davis. Okay, committee, I'm going to bring us back into session and I'm going to give the officer the opportunity to comment on the detail errors that Mr. Edgecombe mentioned, whether she'd like to state whether she believes that there have been errors in measurements, etc., etc.
Through you, Chair, I do take that I have put Crays Hill Road instead of Crays Hill on the paragraph 2.1.1. For members' consideration, there is another application currently with the planning department, and it's a different design of a proposed extension, which is still being considered at the time, so it's not ready at the moment for it to be heard before this committee. In terms of the trees on the site, there is a tree survey that has been submitted. When I visited the site, the main trees were on the side boundaries and to the rear of the application site. And as you'll see from the conditions, that there are conditions which condition the landscaping plan that's been submitted, and also tree protection measures as well. In terms of the reason why the applicant wants the space, all I understand it is because they're doing more ankle and feet surgery. They need more space with people with wheelchairs, trying to get access into it, and also for the surgical equipment is quite large. I've visited the existing property and had a full guided tour of the actual surgeries and what equipment they need to store, and in terms of the plant room, the air conditioning and so on. So that's all I know about it. In terms of future extensions, obviously they will be subject to formal planning applications. In terms of the existing property at Glenhaven, I understand it to still be a residential property. We haven't had any applications for changes of use from residential to commercial at this point in time. So and if there's any future things, I don't know yet until obviously an application comes through the planning department. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Most of what you said is in response to our second speaker, Mr. Macpherson Davis. Mr. Edgecombe, the first speaker, was talking about measurements being incorrect. Have you yourself checked the measurements on the plans correspond with what's happening on the ground? For instance, he mentioned that the building was only a metre away from his house, his property.
Through you, Chair, there is an existing plant room which is located on the near the boundary of Mr. Edgecombe's property. I'm just trying to find best photograph is probably that one. Oh, sorry. So the picture on the left is the existing plant room, which will be staying, which I'm assuming is the issue with the neighbouring property, which has the concerns about it. The green building to the right, which is further on, will be removed, so it will create more space away from that shared boundary. As you can see, the existing neighbouring property there to the right of the existing rear elevation. I'm just trying to think which one would be the best. So that's the proposed rear elevation looking back at the back of the existing building and also the extension. So on the right you've got the existing plant room, and then you've got the extension which will be set further away from that shared boundary with the neighbouring property, which is correct.
Okay, thank you very much. I think this plan shows us that the extension is in fact further away. I think perhaps what Mr. Edgecombe was talking about was the existing building. Councillor Schrader, you wish to ask a question?
I wanted to come in on that point just to clarify. If we were minded to grant permission and it turned out that the structure in question was closer to Mr. Edgecombe's property, that would not be in accordance with the approved plans and therefore would, in theory, be enforceable, would it not? Just, I thought that might be helpful to clarify.
Okay, thank you for that. Right, I've got some people here. Can I just clarify that you both want to, that you are, whether you're asking questions or whether you want, right, Councillor Brown.
Sorry, well, you'll probably talk for 20 minutes. Really quickly, I'm not sure there, and I could have missed it. Obviously, our resident was talking about height differences as well. Was that just clarified, or did I just miss that? Sorry. The fact that he was talking about the height difference was 2.85 and he thought it was 3.85 is just a note I made when he was talking. Has that subsequently been clarified? Are we sure that the 2.85 is robust? Thank you.
Yep. Through you, Chair, the original plans proposed to lower the proposed extension further into the ground, which some neighbour comments had concerns about the stability of the ground levels, things like that. But the amended plans do show that the floor level of the extension will match that of the existing building, and there are some slight difference in ground level, but not to an extreme amount that officers consider that the proposal is unacceptable in terms of neighbour amenity issues.
So sorry, Chair, is it okay? So in the report that, I just want to clarify this more for our residents so that we're aware. The report 2.85, he's saying 3.85. A metre is significant. You know, it's a third of the original. Which figures, and if it is different to what's in the report, Does the report need amending before we can proceed? Does this need to be gone away and clarified? And therefore, do we need to defer till we understand this? If those figures are wrong and are what the resident believes them to be, would that change your recommendation? These are the questions that I'm concerned about, having heard the resident speak tonight. Thank you.
I think the officers are just trying to find some answers to the questions that Councillor Brown has just raised.
So we've got that bit 6.2.5. So the original plan revised from 4.150. 6.2.5. I'm already on it, mate.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, can we quieten down? Miss Lyons wishes to speak.
Having just confirmed with the case officer, basically paragraph 6.2.5 is correct. So what it says is, however, the recent revised plan show a reduction in the height of the extension from 4.1 metres at the highest of the extension and 3.8 at the lowest to 3.5, reducing to 3.1. So basically it has reduced in height. What I suggest to ensure that those heights are the maximum, and it's a condition that's missed off, and I think on a site we've got issues of a slopey site, is we put a levels condition on that would require the buildings not to exceed those heights.
Members be happy with an extra condition to ensure that the heights? Thank you. Yep, okay. Councillor Rimmer?
Thank you, Chair. Also to do with the first speaker, and actually I sort of commend him, and I think probably we've had bullet points related to comments made by members of the public, but we haven't seen the full 6-page letter. So just to state that, I do notice some of the comments do mention hedgerows, so people do share my concerns. But let's not talk about that just now. My concerning in terms of landscaping was the point made by the member of the public tonight in respect of his patio, and actually he stated that, or was it his driveway, that one of the trees in the landscaping scheme that was proposed would end up on his driveway or patio, and I was just, if we could have an answer to that, please, because I think that suggests that this the tree replanting scheme may not be correct. So I just wanted to understand that.
The
there is a plan which is quoted in the condition that does show, I think it's by mistake, 2 trees. I think have been misdrawn. I think to validate this condition, I just think that it should be in 2 parts. That a landscaping scheme should be submitted to the council prior to commencement of the planning application, and that basically then there should be a compliance condition that should be carried out in accordance with. So we break condition 4 into an A and a B. that a landscaping scheme should be submitted to the council before that date and agreed, and then B should then be the fact that it should be implemented in accordance with it, and then that will give us a chance to look at there is an anomaly with a tree randomly put I think outside the red line. I think it's an error, but at the moment that condition in itself is requiring works outside the red line, which we can't condition. So I think we can resolve that through just amending condition 4 into a do it and then comply with it.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Okay, one other question. The hours of opening on number 7, are they the same as currently exist?
Through you, Chair, the agent confirmed that to me, that they were the correct hours of opening.
Thank you very much. Okay, right. Does anyone want to discuss this application after all that questioning? Councillor Rimmer?
It's a really difficult one, isn't it? Because there's quite a long planning history here where the applicant has come back and forth. On occasions, they've got permission and then had conditions that we've applied discharged against them. I feel uncomfortable with this. Looking at the residential character and amenity, they were the ones who chose this site, you know, and obviously they were given special treatment because of the medical services that they were delivering. But have they gone beyond, you know, those initial reasons for giving that application? Because ultimately this is a residential area, and is it actually impacting on other residents there? I feel that it is, and perhaps they should choose another site if they're getting to this point where they would like to expand and they're running out of room. That's the time you relocate. So I think there is arguments to be had on this. I don't like the application as it stands. I'm uncomfortable with it. I think there might be a case to refuse it, but I'm minded to hear the other views of other members of the committee on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rimmer. I think when this came on, one of the many times when this came forward, I think at the beginning of the application process, the committee actually discussed them doing what they're doing now and using the roadway up the side to make the car parking a little, make more car parking, but not more spaces, make it easier to turn around in the car park and make it more usable. So it's interesting that they are now able to do that because they didn't own that particular bit of land at the time. I understand what you're saying about that, but you know it's not up for us to make a business case for them. It's up for us to decide this particular application on its merits or lack of them. So. Like you, I would also wonder what anybody else's views are on the actual application, and at the moment I'm not getting anyone much wanting to make a comment. Okay, Councillor Brockman first.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Right, a little bit of a declaration here. Recently I went through some private medical treatment, and when I was searching out the place to go, I went to various hospitals and everything, and not one of them was in the middle of a village, like a little village, or you know, like this kind of thing. I'm very uncomfortable with it because I really don't think it's fair on the residents at all. I can't see why, and I'd like to know why it is they've been granted all these applications and they haven't done anything. That's another reason why. Because have they done any of these?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have. Oh, right, perhaps I'm losing the plot then here. But no, I'm like Councillor Rimmer, I'm quite uncomfortable with it at the moment. Perhaps if anyone else can make a decent argument out of it, then I might change my mind.
Thank you, Councillor Brockman. Councillor Myers?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, on the face of it, with the added conditions, just to guarantee what the heights are going to be and the level and the tree and landscaping thing, I think is very correct to add. I do have a problem with this with this other submitted application that's been put forward to do with the same extension. I mean, we had this before and we deferred it the first time because of that exact same reason. So I'm a bit concerned about what they're trying to do with that by submitting another application to try to perhaps more easily placate us if we decide to, you know, whatever decision we make this evening. I mean, on the face of it, I have been to certain sort of private dentists in the past where they do take NHS patients for the old wisdom tooth pull and all that stuff. It's great fun. So, you know, I know there's one over at Felmore's. Yes, I know Councillors Bottom, you do it for free. I know that, yes. So, I mean, these things do assist with public healthcare as well as private. I think the question's been asked and answered about the distance from the proposed extension from the existing property, not including the existing plant rooms of where is 3.25, whatever it is, whatever the figure was. I'm quite placated with that. In terms of wheelchair accessibility, I mean, I've not seen this site before, so I'm not entirely sure what the front of it is, where the current entrance is in terms of wheelchair accessibility, but of course we should all be mindful with healthcare facilities in particular, as well as sort of leisure and pub and restaurant facilities, that wheelchair accessibility should be paramount in all designs, and I think that this does it with its extra space to allow those sort of patients to be able to access this service within a close distance rather than having to travel tens of miles to get somewhere. I think on balance, I am concerned about this extra planning application that's gone through, that's been suggested this evening, but I think on balance, what's being proposed in front of me and with the extra conditions, I'm minded to approve this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. Councillor Brown?
Yes, so I think that, you know, part of this, we can't, many of us tonight are sitting thinking about whether or not a commercial venture should or should not be there. Unfortunately, that is not what we're being asked to consider. This already exists. We're not being asked to consider whether it should be there at all. What we're being asked to consider is what additional harm, what additional benefit is there under planning regulations to what they are proposing with this extension. And that is the only thing we can consider. Having said that, I don't like it. I feel it's overdevelopment, but I haven't really got anything to hang it on. And as you know, that ain't going to go anywhere, and therefore, reluctantly, I would have to support this application because there isn't any objections here, any evidence here that would lead us to be able to refuse it. That's where I'm at the moment. Maybe Andy can come up with something.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Schrader.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel very similarly to Councillor Brown, and I tend to agree with Councillor Rimmer that, I mean, as you said, Chairman, this particular application site has a long and storied history in the annals of planning committee meetings. It's been before us many times. It feels increasingly like a site that was given permission for a specific function that it has really outgrown, and it feels like we're trying to cram more and more onto a space that won't really hold it. And I you know, we see this from time to time. I mean, I think it's a bit similar to, you know, the Islamic Centre, which I feel has, you know, they keep kind of putting in additional applications because they fundamentally kind of outgrown that site. And I think this is a similar sort of thing where it probably functioned reasonably well at the beginning, but they're hemmed in, partly because it is a commercial activity taking place in a residential area. So there's only so much you can push out at the edges and grow in a situation like that. And that's when you then start getting into a question about, well, at what point does that attempt at growth start to harm residential amenity? And at what point does that constitute overdevelopment? Now, I mean, I share Councillor Brown's anxieties in the sense that I'm not entirely convinced we have enough here to demonstrate overdevelopment. I think it's straining at the edges and it's getting to that point, but whether or not we're there sufficiently to satisfy an inspector at an appeal, that I'm not as confident. But I think that, I mean, the additional planning application is, well, it's an irritant, but it is ultimately irrelevant, because obviously we consider every application on its own merits. And it's also not unheard of. We have had applications in the past where someone's put in an application for something and then they've submitted an additional application for more or less exactly the same scheme but with a slightly different design, or maybe slightly bigger or slightly longer or whatever, and either they get permission for one and not the other, or they get permission for both, in which case they pick which one they want to go ahead with, or they get permission for neither and they appeal them both and roll the dice that way. So it's not unheard of, it does happen, and it's not germane to this particular application. We should look at this one on its individual merits. It may be that the other one will be more or less acceptable, and we'll make a decision on that as and when it comes before us. It means that this particular applicant is going to keep the committee in. None of us need to worry about becoming unemployed anytime soon. We'll be kept busy. So, yeah, where do I come out in the final balance? I don't like the application. I think that they have outgrown this site, but I don't think that they've sufficiently outgrown it that we will be able to turn it down and for that refusal to stand up at appeal. But I think they're right on the limit now. I don't think they could expand this site any more than this. But I think what does give me some security is the fact that we have the submitted plans, and if what ends up being built is not in accordance with those plans, I have a feeling that will come back to us and it will be enforceable. Because if they are too close or they are too high, we have pretty robust conditions in place, and they have been strengthened tonight, so I take some comfort in that. But I do think this is skirting very close to overdevelopment, but I'm just not entirely convinced it meets the test of overdevelopment. That's where I sit at the moment, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Schreider. One option you forgot to mention with when two applications are put in, they get permission on the first one and withdraw the second one. Yes. Just an option that you didn't put on the table amongst all the options. Councillor Rimmer.
To be fair to Councillor Schrader, the history on planning suggests that they probably go with both. I think there is grounds in respect of overdevelopment. Now I've listened to everybody and I've sort of weighed it up in my head. But more so, I mean, Councillor Sargent brought it up when she actually brought this in for discussion. And I think there's an element of poor design. So damage to visual amenity by reason of poor design, because it's out of character for the area to expand this property to the extent it's being expanded. It's getting rid of something you'd expect to see in a residential area, which is a garage, to actually replace it with a much larger commercial building. And I feel that there is also this damage to residential amenity as well. So I could see it as C, G and H based on what we're seeing. I do think if you're going to be, I'm not commenting on the original decision to place a commercial entity there. It's the expansion of a commercial entity and taking up a larger footprint that I'm objecting to in a residential area, and in a way that makes it stick out like a sore thumb in that residential area, damaging the amenity visually by means of poor design in respect of the character of that residential area.
Okay. Anyone else want to come in? Councillor Moore.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. Just taking on a few of the points, I'm really concerned about the closeness to the neighbouring property. I mean, we can see it on the chart here. It's very close. I'm uncomfortable with that. I don't know the history of this, but I'm very concerned about this other application. And I know I heard, you know, we're looking at this one, but it does seem to me rather bizarre that we make a decision on this and then 2 weeks' time we've got another one for the same thing. Why can't we have them both together? So that would be my view, is I'd like to see the other one with this, and let's do the two together.
If only, Councillor. And with regards to the proximity to Springfield, the existing building is the one that is close to Springfield. The actual extension on the back is much further away from Springfield. And unfortunately, we're not being asked to reduce the width of the existing building. It's the existing bit, that it's the additional bit that we're going to make a decision on. And if nobody else has got any comments, then I think we'll go to the vote. The recommendation is that planning application number 23/00353/full be granted planning permission subject to conditions set out at the end of the report. That's between pages 152 and 153. And we're also going to add another condition with regards to making sure that the heights are as in the report. And condition 4 is going to be split into parts A and B to strengthen it. Can I have a show of hands for those in favour of that recommendation, please? Okay, that's 3 in favour. And those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 against. Abstentions, please. 2 abstentions. I think we've that's everybody voted, and the application is refused. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your time. Thank you very much for that. We have now got to decide. Yeah, you can ask for refusal. We've now got to move on to work out the reasons for refusal. I know that Councillor Rimmer has given some letters, but I think we need a little more meat on the bone with regards to that. Could you just tell the officers what you think? Did you wish to speak, Councillor Blake, or do you wish to give some reasons for refusal?
Speak on an issue which is about what we've got to do now.
Well, what we've got to do now is decide why we're refusing it. That is the first stage.
What we've done in the past, we've come up with the A, B, C, D, or whatever, and then officers have gone away and done it with the officer jargon. So we don't really need to specify now other than say B, C, or D, and then officers go away and come back, and that's how we've always used to do it. It used to work perfectly because we can't necessarily we know what we mean, but officers are experienced and qualified to give exactly the wording that's required, and then that I would normally used to come back to the next committee or go via the chairman to okay that. But I mean, don't know if people remember that in the good old days. It's not happened now. You know, so it should happen.
Yeah,
I mean,
Councillor Bake, if I may, that is exactly what we are going to do. But A, B, C and D doesn't really give the officers enough understanding of why overdevelopment of the site by reason of. They will need to know the reason of and things like that. So if you want to put some meat on that bone, please, Councillor.
Yeah, so C, overdevelopment of the site by reason of massing. In terms of G, damage to residential amenity by reason of massing. H, damage to visual amenity, poor design by reason of not in character with the residential character of that street.
So, Councillor, you're saying it's visual amenity, poor. I'd like to sort of enumerate which of those two you're actually talking about there.
Well, I know it says or, but surely we could have and.
Okay, officers, do you have all the information you need, or do we think we need to ask any other members if they've got any other reasons which they don't appear to have?
We possibly need overdevelopment by reason of scale and massing and amenity adding into that. I think that's what Councillor was supposed to be saying, I thought.
Yes, that's right.
Exactly.
Right, that being the case, then I think the officers can now, Councillor Blake, take that away to do what you were required. Councillor Aldridge.
On point F and the lack of car parking spaces services, we've got the same number of parking spaces, but I'm mindful of hearing from people that some employees at the site are actually parking on Glenhaven, and also to that little narrow pathway that runs up the side of the plan is being removed. And I went there this evening to just have us to look around it, and there was one vehicle that came out of there, so they're obviously parking up that lane. And who came out of the FaceMed. So I'm just thinking that by putting the extension in, we're going to have more people using it, and just the number of employees could easily fill those 10 spaces. I think that could be suitably worded, an extra point.
I believe, Ms Lyons, that you're going to tell us that because it's a business, it's a maximum number of parking spaces, not minimum.
You all know our position with parking. What I think the best one to go about is this I, which is unsatisfactory layout by reason of, and we can do by creating a cramped site, something like that, which basically leads to the site being not able to take the. That gets away from the normal challenge over car parking, which we all know we don't ever win on, and we haven't got an objection from highways on those grounds, but we could use the cramped nature of the site, so we'll look something around that. Is that helpful?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got the reasons for refusal, which the officers can take away, and we will have it brought back to us with the appropriate wording, Councillor Blake. If everyone's satisfied with that, then I think we are. Well, actually, no, because we have deferred. We are now effectively deferring the meeting for another meeting to bring those back. So if we don't like them when they come back, you can vote against them then. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much, ladies.